I think week 10 is really helpful because sometimes we can be really theoretical. I mean, we've also, I think, done a really good job of giving you like very step-by-step things of what to work on in a given week. I like this week because it starts to synthesize even more, right? We keep synthesizing even more what it is that we need to do every day. Because a lot of times when the imposter syndrome takes over and you don't know exactly what to do, forget it. So the more we can give you clear details on exactly how this works and where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to focus on, you're going to do it, right? You're going to do it. So, Colleen, if you're ready, you can share your screen. Okay. So sales is intimacy. And, we've talked about that so many times. Sales is intimacy. Sales is making a connection with someone. And we've always said, the more you connect with people, that pot starts to boil. And once that intimacy is really real, it's like what just happened. We came on, I have no intention of talking to you tonight. That's not on my list of things to do, to talk about the alumni program. I said it's week 10 and everyone's like, where is it? How do I sign up for it? Like, it's like an immediate, right? That's how it is with the people you're meant to serve, right? You're just going to start to do what you do, start making deposits, start creating that emotional bank account. And then what's going to happen is people go, hey, so how do I get, please, they're going to DM you. Do you do one-on-one? Do you have a group? When's your next course coming out? What happened with that retreat? Is that retreat full? What happened to that product? Oh, can I get in? Can I get on the wait list for that? That's what happens when you start nurturing people. So we're going to give you tonight more of a step-by-step on what to do now that you know a lot about sales and you started thinking about your offer. And by the way, let me just say, for anyone who feels behind because you haven't done your podcast or you still don't know what your offer is, this is still an amazing thing for you to sit back and for you to let this pour over you, because this is still what you need to do when you build a business. And so you can feel that for you, you're successful just because you're sitting here learning, right? There are people who go get an MBA. They don't start a business till years later, but they feel successful because they completed their MBA. So you are getting not a theoretical MBA, you're getting a real, you're getting a real understanding of business. So you can scroll through that. So Daniel Pink, I love Daniel Pink. He was on my show and he said, if you have something that benefits the world, it's a moral obligation to bring it to more people. One of the best predictors of the ultimate success in either sales or non-sales selling isn't natural talent or even industry expertise, but how you explain your failures and rejections. When Daniel was on the show, he said, whether you make a software or you can paint something that can add some beauty to somebody's home, or you know how to save somebody's time, or you make a really delicious oatmeal, he said, I think that you need to share it. So I said to him, wow, that really gives people permission. And he said, no, let me be clear. It's not permission. It's an obligation. You were not given a gift. You were not given a skill. You were not given a tool for you to keep it to yourself. It's a moral obligation for you to give it and sell it, because when you sell it, you make money. And by making money, you can get better at it because you can focus on that. You don't have to keep that for a rainy day. So I think that that's really important. So we've talked about where we've been. We talked about creating an offer, how to grow and engage an audience through Instagram, podcasting, and email. Where we're headed is we're going to talk about how to continue reaching out. How do you make offers, but some specific tips to make your offer appealing to your ideal customer. And we're going to talk about a framework so that you can start to figure out how you're going to set yourself up throughout your week, right? What are the things to focus on? So here we are. We're talking about squirm-free sales because we're saying to you, you shouldn't feel bad about this, right? This should feel really good because this is not something that should feel anything other than generous, right? It should feel generous. So we often feel like there's a magical secret to selling. Like, oh, I always hear people say, if I just had a team or someone to do, it's like, even to this day, even though I now have a team, for years, I didn't have a team, did not have a team when I did songwriting, when I did my songwriting courses. Initially, I was on my own, completely on my own, the first million, up to the first million. I mean, truth. But even when you have a team, at the end of the day, like, there is no way around me connecting with an audience, engaging an audience, and making an offer. Like, if any of those three pieces I gave to my team, I was like, you get visible, you connect. It's like, no, you make the offer. When I get to that part, you do that part, you go live, you make the offer. That wouldn't work. So it really comes down to, there is nothing magical other than showing up and being brave and doing it. So you're going to continue to reach out and connect with people, and you're going to get clear about the promise and the transformation of your offer. and we're going to learn how to talk about this. Okay. So Colleen, I'm going to let you jump in and we can go back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. So I think the big thing, and Cathy has mentioned this before, but it's one of those things we always benefit from hearing and telling ourselves over and over again. It's not about needing a ton of people. You can have a successful business. You can make money. You can have the clients and the customers when there aren't a lot of people in your world yet. It's not about the numbers. It's always about the engagements. Okay. And as you start to show up in these different ways, particularly on your social media platforms, it's very common for us to be like, oh my gosh, only 2 people liked my post. How that sucks. Like, how am I ever gonna, be like that person over there who has 80,000 followers? And the thing is, we really want you to reframe that and go, oh my gosh, there's 2 people who liked my post, 2 beautiful human beings who felt compelled to respond and react to what I'm putting out into the world. And that's an opening, that's an opportunity for you to more deeply connect with them by starting to follow up with them one-on-one and continuing to engage them and reach out. The other thing to remember too is that we can engage with people who are responding to the content we're putting out there. And we can also actively be looking at ways for how can we find or build connections that are going to support us, right? So if you remember, Cathy was often like, okay, everyone put your Instagram, handle, and then you guys she'd say, follow the one above, follow the one below, right? Those are opportunities to start connecting, to start collaborating, to start finding those ways of being able to share what you're doing in a creative way. So maybe you want to get your products into farmers markets or flea markets or galleries or in like the local retail stores. Well, that's not just going to magically happen. It's going to require us making that uncomfortable step of doing all those reach outs and knowing that some of them may not even respond to us. Some of them may just flat out say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. But it's not about the no's. It's about for every certain number that you do reach out to, there's going to be an opening, or they're going to know someone who maybe would be interested. And it will start to snowball from there. If you work more in a service-based industry, you can think of parallel businesses that operate, right? If you think of the wedding industry, well, maybe you're a cake baker. So then you go out and you make friends with the florists and you introduce you, and maybe you could collaborate because they can provide the flowers that you're going to put on your cakes, right? And you start to build cross-referral networks and those relationships. So there's lots of different ways that we can creatively go out and start building connections and start expanding our audience. But the way you build that empire, it's through those one-on-one connections. And it feels slow, but it's like building a skyscraper. We have to dig down, we have to build the foundation, we have to get all the rebar in. Like, it's a process before it comes to life. And when you start there, that's when the magic can unfold.
Yeah, and there is something to understanding what a tipping point is. But if you look at the trajectory of any business, whether it was Crocs or Tom Shoes or Smart Water or any business, it starts off and you feel like, oh, what is the difference? If this one person liked it, it's not making such a difference, but it makes a difference. And I think what we forget, like Colleen said, is you don't need thousands of people to be your customers. I had 147 people in the world initially who wanted to take a songwriting class from me, and that turned into 6 figures, right? And when I was writing music for film and TV, out of the entire industry, I had 28 people from between film, TV, and ads who were clients of mine. And that created a ripple effect that allowed for opportunities that were equal to $300,000 to $400,000 a year from 28 people. So if you were to say, well, 6 of those people, just 6 of those people would have made me enough of a career that I could have been the equivalent of like an attorney. That's how much money I was making. So we need to realize, like, every time somebody interacts with your content, you need to show up and say, well, this person's raising their hand This is the beginning of a relationship. I'm going to show up for it. And if you really do the math, if you could do that every single day, 2 or 3 times, by the end of the month, you could have connected with 90 people. If you connect with 90 people a month, maybe 10 of those people will become your customers. If you get 10 people a month to become your customers, after 3 months, that's 30 customers. If those 30 customers buy a small offer or a medium offer, whatever it is, they're going to come back and want the next thing. So instead of just saying, oh, forget it, it's like, we just have this learned helplessness. It's like, there's no point. There's no point. Well, there really is a point, actually. And what's good news for you is that 99% of people will not do this. So when you actually reach out and you don't make it like a form letter and they can feel that you're actually sending a voice text, or the way that you're sending a note, it's like they can feel that you're there already. It sort of gets you further than what it really should, because they're so used to people being so formulaic or not really showing up or not being present, that when someone's actually there and willing to help and has an open heart and is willing to be nurturing and helpful and connect with you and ask you about yourself, you're like, whoa, who is this person? I can't believe this person really cared that I liked their thing and then sent me a voice note to say, hey, I saw that you liked it. That meant a lot to me. And then I looked at your feed and I saw that on your feed, you guys just came back from Cape Cod, and my aunt used to live in Cape Cod, and I'm just curious, like, how that was. And I heard there was a hurricane this weekend, and were you guys safe? And blah, 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 blah. Like, oh my God, if you just did that 3 times a day, that's 90 contacts roughly by the end of the month. How would you miss out on that? Why would you miss out on that? Right? Some of those people are going to feel really excited about what you have to offer. It just comes down to courage. Okay, so we're going to talk more about that tonight.
Yeah. So where do you start then, right? So if we're saying, let's just take people engaging with your social media profile, like a post or a video that you've done, what do you do if you find people have liked it or commented on it? Well, first things first, you can reach out and send them a direct message. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be long. And if, voice messages, like Cathy says, is super powerful. If you're like, I don't know if I want to start with voice message, then the first contact can be text. And then maybe you follow up with a voice message. Like, play with what feels comfortable. The most important thing is that you get in the habit of doing this. So you could start out very simply and just sort of be like, hey, Sarah, I saw you liked my post about smoothies. Do you drink smoothies regularly? It's very simple, right? But it's just that opening and that engagement and that opportunity. It's non-threatening. You're not trying to shove an offer down their throat. You're not trying to promote anything. You're acknowledging them. You're seeing them, and then you're engaging them.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you guys will find it sort of, I think, as with everything, it always feels more intimidating to think about doing it. And then when you're in it, you're like, oh, this is natural. This is intuitive, and it will be to you. So we're just kind of giving you a couple stepped examples, but what this unfolds like it'll be organic, and you'll know what to say because you're you, and it'll come through.
Right. Sorry.
So, so maybe they write back and they say, oh my gosh, yeah, like I try and make a smoothie every day. Right. So you could just sort of say like, oh, that's amazing. Like, do you mind if I ask if you prefer like fruit smoothies or like veggie smoothies? I have some free recipes that you might like, right? So that gives you an opportunity. Again, like, you're not just saying, do you want my freebie on smoothies? But you're kind of still inquiring, okay? Because Beth, who's one of the people on Cathy's team, she's amazing with a lot of the sales and direct messaging. Her big thing is always be asking for permission, right? So do you mind if I ask this? Like, can I ask you a question about this? When we do that to the other person on the receiving end, it feels less invasive, right? It feels gentler and softer. So if there's a part of you that's like, I don't know, is it a bit in your face to like show up in their inbox? Just remember, when you ask those permissions very softly, it doesn't come off as feeling too strong, okay? The other thing too, I always say, is watch the energy that you're showing up in when you're reaching out. Because if you're going, I'm just doing these reach outs so I can make sales, that will come through inevitably, okay? There'll be like an undercurrent in the conversation. But if you're reaching out because you're passionate about what you do and how you help people in general, and you just want to connect with more people and help them with what you do, that undercurrent is what's going to come through in your messages. And it will palpably, even if not consciously, still feel differently to that person. So try not to be super attached to, oh my gosh, I've had 4 people not even respond. Is this, going to be worth my time? Just love on each person you reach out to as if you have the opportunity to change their experience and change their day just by being there.
Yeah. And I would again remind you, like, just really watch like how often your ego wants to get in the way and be like, oh my God, who am I to do this? And oh my God, I can't believe it's like, that's such the small version of you, right? The bigger version of you is just like, I could bring some added joy to this person's day. I genuinely would care, right? It's like what I said about that woman, Denise. Like, there are so many times where I am in a moment like we're in tonight, or I am DMing with someone, or I'm having a meeting about something, and I'm enjoying so much just talking to them about whatever they feel like talking about, that I genuinely would rather do that than not do it, right? I don't even care what the conversation goes to. It's just really nice to connect with other human beings. And one of the things that you can do is, really be in it for the conversation. So what we're doing here is we're giving you sort of like the skeleton of where it can go. But what I'm hoping to do on tonight's call is massage this out to the point where you wouldn't just say these words robotically, like, do you mind if I ask? I have a free resource. Maybe you will say those exact words, but you would also include something that genuinely is authentic to the moment. Like, and that would only happen because you were available in that moment, because you did look at their feed, because you are responding to like, oh, that's so cool that you do this, this, and this. Like, you could even say, tell me more about what you do. I wonder, my aunt needs someone like that. I would love to like send her your stuff. And that might be true in that moment. Or maybe you just notice that she also lives in the Midwest and you're like, me too. Like, I live 3 hours from you. And it's been hard with COVID, but I'm so happy to be near family. Or I don't know, just that goes without saying. That's why I started this night by saying the thing I've said so many times. Sales is intimacy. Be there for them and assume the friendship. Assume the friendship. Assume this like casualness where you're like, I'm not here to get something from this person. Like, it's as if, if somebody liked something that you did, or somebody's on social media posting something, whether they're posting and they didn't like what you did, but they're posting, or they liked what you did, one way or another, they're there to be social, right? One way or another, remember that every person on some level still feels like the kid who just walked into the gym and it's the 7th grade dance and you're hoping quickly that somebody comes over that because everybody feels that way. Everybody's ego feels that way, a little vulnerable, a little exposed, a little unsure. So if you assume the friendly, casual friendship, and you're like, oh, I love what you're posting, and I just wanted to reach out. I want to know more about your offers. I want to know more about where you're at. I want to know more about your kids. I love that. I want to also talk to you about what I'm doing. Or, you know what? You're so cool. You should be friends with so-and-so. Let me connect you guys in a group chat. Right? Just like whatever is possible in the moment, just go all in, see what you can do, see how you can connect people, see what comes to you. It might be a million different things. And then of course you can let them know, nurture them. I have a free training on that. Oh, you're struggling with that. You want that? Let me send that to you. Right? But it doesn't need to be like in this way where the person feels like this leads to this, leads to this. Like, I mean, most of you guys have come through my 5-day challenges. Like, nothing I do, I don't even like the scent of that. So typically on day 1 of doing a 5-day challenge, I will say, hey, just so we can like deal with the elephant in the room, at the end of this, I'm 100% going to invite you to an opportunity to hang out with me. That's for sure coming. I'll talk to you about it then. And equal to that, as much as that's true, I really want you guys to get something out of this week. I showed up for this week because I'm hoping that the way I designed this week, you're going to feel it was worth your time, even though it was free. You're going to feel like you paid for it. You're going to feel like it was worth so much more than you did, which is 0. So enjoy it. And when the time comes, if you want to do more, we'll talk about it. But here we go. And people are like, yes, right? There's nothing to lie about. There's nothing to hide. It's like, why would I not provide another way for people to take the next step? That'd be ridiculous. That'd be stupid. It's like, I know how to build a business. I know how to build a podcast. I know how to make millions of dollars. I'm going to just tell you that I'm not going to offer that. right? And no, I couldn't just do this. I couldn't spend all this time. My kids are downstairs right now. No, I'm not going to do that ever, right? Unless this is a part of my business, right? Which helps me actually put my kids in private school, which helps me actually be better at this because I spend so much time on it, right? So you don't have to excuse yourself. You don't have to apologize, but it is nice to just every single day. If you went live and 2 people commented, those are 2 people raising their hands saying, I want to be closer to you. I want to be in your circle. So you go to them. You go to them. And instead of being like, oh, I have no leads, I have no community, I have no clients, it's like, is that true? Is that really true that you have nothing right now? Or is it that you're just not showing up for those people? And so they're like, all right, I'll take my energy somewhere else. So you guys can be doing this every single day. And this is the skeleton of that conversation. So you reach out, hey, I saw that you like that. That's so cool. Tell me about you. That really meant a lot to me. You can even be so honest. This has been so overwhelming, going live and being on social media, but I'm excited about it. And it meant so much that you liked it. You have no idea, like it actually matters. So I so appreciate you. And I went on your feed and I love what you posted and blah, blah, blah. And tell me more. Do you mind if I ask? Tell me more about why you even liked it, or tell me more about, did you like it because I had those hysterical glasses on and I forgot to wipe the chocolate off my face? Or did you like it because I was talking about green smoothies? Which one, or both? And then she'll say one or the other. Oh, I have more stuff I could give you on that. And by the way, listen, right? Find the next question in what they said. That's how I do my podcast. I actually don't write out questions ever. I just listen. And then they're like, my mom and my dog this. And then I'm like, oh, and what happened with your dog? Right? Ask the next question. They're going to hand you the thing to ask. And then what happens then? Then you go to the next thing. Would you like me to share this? And then you can start sending the link and then you can follow up. But this is literally the skeleton. Everything else is the humanity of it, the people part, the part that you can't put in a formula, right? But those are the ways that we want you to actually touch the other person. And we're just showing you, and here's where you can keep moving it back to, this is what you do. This is what you're passionate about. This is how you want to solve problems in the world.
Yeah. And there may be people, you guys, in this journey of reaching out that don't love you reaching out. Like, that may happen. That doesn't mean you stop and then go, oh my gosh, I cannot reach out to anyone anymore because one person didn't respond very positively.
Right.
That reaction is more about them and their journey and their process. You can reflect on what you said or how it felt to you or whatever, but by and large, remember to stay grounded in your commitment to your generosity and your mission that you have to support and connect people.
Yeah.
I know Sarah was asking here about, it's a good problem to have, Sarah. She says, well, what do we do if we have like a whole bunch of people who have liked or who have commented? She said, how do we pick or prioritize who we reach out to? So honestly, Sarah, a couple different things. In that case, I would go for level of engagement. So I would look at the people probably who comment over those who like, because they're taking more engagement with you. And then, of those people, if you still have a lot, personally, I would just feel into it as like, where do I feel pulled? Where do I feel drawn? Like where am I, like, trust in your process and trust in your journey around where you're pulled and who you kind of want to connect with and reach out to. What inspired you about what they shared or they wrote or however that connection happened. And you'll just find your way. There's no right or wrong way.
Yeah. And you don't have to talk to all of those people every single day. But there are people who just like it and there's people who comment. So I would probably prioritize people who just put more energy in, the people who comment. And then of the people who comment, maybe the people who said things that were more substantive, and just go from there for a little while and you'll figure it out. But all of this is about not going right to the offer. That's the point. It's like, I finally figured out that I think I want to do X. And then I posted X every single day and nobody cared. And it's like, yeah, it's not their job to care. Yeah, it's not their job to care. And, my friend Jim Quick says to me, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Write that down. Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So they don't need another thing. They can find it somewhere else, right? They need you. They need the brand. They need the experience. It's like Ali Webb said, it's the experience of dry bar. You could get your hair blow dried a million different places, but there is some level of experience where you feel they've gone out of their way to really think about what you're needing, right? They give you the phone charger, a glass of champagne. They, just every little detail. They put the Kate Hudson movies on, all of that stuff. So from the first second, what is the brand really about? What is the mission really about? What is the lifestyle of the brand? What is really the whole point of the world people are walking into when they walk into your social media sphere? Is there a feeling? Because I will hear this from, and it's such a compliment, my peers, right? Like Candace Nelson, Amy Purdy, like my peers will say, Kath, from the second I walked into your world on social media, I just felt this is so different. This is just all so different. And I wanted to be your friend, and I wanted to talk, and I wanted to connect, and all of this stuff. It's amazing how just caring that much about the way you interact with someone who left a comment is just as important as the day you make your first $1 million sale, right? It's just as important. How are they not connected? It's everything. It's everything, And it's amazing how when we're just so unwilling to surrender control and to believe in magic that we're just like, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. And we're just like, not going to show up and not going to show up. You think that energy doesn't reflect everywhere? Like, it's like, but then there's the person who's like, here I am, here I fully am. And how quickly that starts to move worlds around. It's amazing. We are not living in the same reality. We're all living in a reality based on what we choose and the vibration that we choose to put out. So this is important. And if you really think about it, it's as if I said to you, here's a list of 90 people this month who are ready to buy from you. And you're like, I don't know. I'm not going to reach out. They can come to me. They'll figure it out. And if they don't, that's insulting. It's a big rejection. Well, it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't work that way. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Jim said to me, he was at some event and this guy comes over to him and he's like talking to him about some way that they can collaborate. And he didn't know his name. He didn't use his name. And then at the end, he called him by the wrong name. And he was like, oh, like this person really knew that he wanted something from me, but he didn't bother enough to know my name. So I'm not really sure that I need to work with this person, right? Like you could have cared enough to know my name, and you could have cared enough to care about everything else that's going on in the world, maybe even a little, to talk about that, and besides just like this agenda you have about your business, right? So you'd be amazed how much you're going to have happen. Not just customers, you're going to find collaborators, you're going to find new friends, you're going to find mastermind people who can join you. You're going to have so much to offer, right? Think of the value add proposition. Think of all the ways you can add value to someone else, not just in your offer. What else? You're talking to someone, let's say you see they have an Instagram account, they have 1,200 followers and they're building a business. They have this like farmhouse and they sell these wooden, you could be like, oh my God, like, what you wrote in that post, it's so good. I just finished taking this course. And I learned about this, and this. You're doing that really well. I'm happy to like share any of that stuff with you if you're curious. Like, oh yeah, I want to know, right? What did you learn? Right? There's so many ways that you can collaborate with people. What are all the ways you can add value? What about just the fact that you have empathy? You're a good listener. What about just the fact that you care, and you especially care about other working moms or women in business, and you want to help support one another? I mean, all of those things can be added into the conversation, right? Why not? Why not? You think that person, really, you think that person is so good about reaching out about their own stuff or about what they need, or really gets enough time in their week to be listened to. So much. Maybe you even want to have them on your podcast, or maybe you want to ask them what their favorite podcast is or what they're listening to lately, and then tell them something that you found that was inspiring and just share some content. But this has to happen every single day. And if you don't want it to happen, then just realize that what you're choosing is to let your fear, which is really your ego, just decide for you. That's all. We all do that. It's a big bummer. We do that all the time. And that's why I say, how many people could you connect to? Could you shine a light on today? Could you make happier? How many people could you even just show, wow, somebody in this world is really, refreshing. That's cool. Instead of worrying so much about how you come across, it's like, enough. It's boring, it's so boring at this point. It's not helping you. So there's a whole second act of this workbook. So I'm going to stop talking.
So how do we talk about our offers more effectively? Because it's one thing to know we're making these reach outs, but there's also certain ways that we talk about what we have for people that is going to make them want it more, or make them see and understand why it's something that they can't live without. So let's talk about what this is all about. So first things first, I want you to start understanding that there is a gap. Okay, there is a gap no matter what you sell. You've got your person in their current state, in their present moment, and that is different from the transformation or the result or somewhere else they want to be. They're not in the same place. And what's so essential is that your offer is that bridge. Okay, it's that boat that drives them across the water to that island, that paradise island where they really want to get to. Okay, the more that you make your offer, and the more you start refining it with the tips we're going to go through now, the more powerfully it's going to come off to people to realize, I need to get on your bridge. I need to climb on your boat because you have what I want. Okay. And the more we can, just like Cathy was saying, it's at the core, right? It's that empathy. It's helping people feel so deeply seen and feel so deeply cared for. That is at the heart. If we don't have that, like, we don't have anyone's attention, right? We need to see them. We need to say, hey, I see where you are, and also help them understand that we know where they want to go. So how do we do that? So first things first, you've got to get clear about your offer promise. So much of the time, we think we are clear about our offer promise because we're so close to it, right? And in our head, we fill in all kinds of blanks around everything. And so there's a broader context that we have in our own inner world. But first things first, we want you to understand it's never the thing that they want. Okay, just like Cathy was talking about Allie and Dry Bar, they don't want the blowout. It's not literally, come get your hair dried. Like, it doesn't, it's like, oh, can I just dry my hair myself? Right? If you just say it like that, it's sort of like, why would I need that? Like, why is that so, what? I would pay someone, like, I can just blow dry it. But like Cathy says, Dry Bar is about the experience. The promise of Dry Bar is not blow drying your hair. The promise is feeling like $1,000,000, feeling pampered, sitting back and enjoying an hour of time to yourself, walking out those doors and feeling crazy confident because your hair is bouncing and you just look fabulous, right? That is what the offer promise is. That's what people go, oh my gosh, I want that. I want to feel that way.
I was on Instagram last week also a few times talking to one of our students who popped on, and she was talking about her business. And I said, what's your offer? And she said, I make little macrame rainbows, and I have essential oil holders, and I have bracelets. So I said, okay, well, the first thing is we need to pick one of those. And I said, is there anything that connects all of those things? And she said, oil, essential oil. And I said, oh, great. Okay. So I wouldn't have known that when you described it the first time. Can we pick one of those? Is there one thing that we could start with? And she said, how about the bracelets? They're essential oil bracelets. And I said, great. So tell me why pitch it to me. Like, why do I need one of those? If I asked you about it, I'm just curious, like, tell me about those bracelets. What's with those bracelets? And she started to say, well, so there's this oil in the bracelet, and the way that the oil works is, there's certain properties in this oil, and, there's different ways in which it like interacts with our body. And she started going through this stuff. And I said, okay, so hang on. I said, just because I want to help you, let's cut to it. I was like, don't do that. Right. So you just explained to me the process and the how and all of that. Why do I want to wear it? And she said, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to answer it that way. I said, yes, you do. Yes, you do. What's the outcome if I were to wear an essential oil bracelet? And she said, well, you'll be more relaxed. I said, oh, and what else? And she's like, well, you'll have more energy, and you'll like bounce through the day, and you'll feel like something in your, about your well-being is restored. I'm like, great. Tell me that. Like, that's all I want. I don't need to know about the kinds of oils and how that's not right now what's happening. When you make the offer, that's where you say, oh my gosh, do you want to just feel like the equivalent of having taken a yoga class, but if you don't have the time to take the yoga class and you want an insurance policy that you're going to feel more relaxed today, just put this bracelet on when you wake up in the morning. Do you want that feeling of like being at the beach and there's wind in your hair and you just feel your whole body just like decompress? Just buy this bracelet. Like, that's what this bracelet is. And she's like, oh, I totally just got it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what you're selling. It's like relaxation like this. All you have to do, there's no effort. Just put it on and you I was like, it's done. How many people need that? That's it. And you can feel it in an energetic sense when you're just not stepping in. You're just apologizing. You're just in resistance. But before you start to type back to someone or voice text someone or go live, if you can just literally check your energy. Just check your energy. And by the way, you can literally feel your energy if you go like this with your hands. You can like go like this, and you go like this. You can feel there's no woo-woo stuff. Like, we're literally made of energy. So you can feel it, right? And then you can like go like this. You can actually feel energy. You can feel it. Just check your energy before you start to talk to people. Like, are you like, are you deflated? Or is there a little bit of like, I'm going in. This is it. I'm owning it. I'm claiming it. Like, here we go. Here we go. Like, let's go. Let's go. Let's step in. Let's step in. Let's draw it down. Let's push it. Let's push and let's go into it. And you step up, right? You make your move, right? You just go right in and you're just like, hey, here it is. It's like, oh, people are just going to go, thank you so much. So you have to be able to say, here it is. Right. And so I want you to feel before you talk to people, like, is there a big apology coming up? Is there a lump in your throat? What is that? What really is that? That's just resistance. It's plain old ego. Is there a lot of like, who am I to say this? It's like, okay, so can you just very politely say, I see you here. Don't worry. I'm going to pick you, ego. You'll be there when I need you. Right now, you're just going to sit right here, and I'm just going to be the vehicle to deliver this gift. You're just the messenger delivering the gift. It's like, hi, very simple and pure. This does this. I think you should take a look at it. Oh, thank you so much. Right? Let's hand it over. Let's be the messenger. Here it is. You don't have to do so much. You don't have to prove so much. People get it, right? People get it. You don't have to convince people of things, right? Like, when things are just true, it's just like, there it is. There it is, right? It's just a message. It's just a message. Like, somehow your life lined up with all of these experiences to where you're now in this moment where you want to teach someone to lose weight. Is it true? Yeah. It's just a gift. All those experiences happen so that you could go through that so that you can help somebody else. Don't make that about you. Just give the gift, right? All the experiences lined up in my life so that I could teach people this. It's not really about me, right? I'm just passing it along. Like that game when you pass the energy around, just pass it along. Just get out of the way. Just move out of the way, right? Just let your ego move out of the way so you can just show up. It's so easy. It's really, really easy. We're just going to pass it along. And then people will feel it and they'll be just happy. It's great. This is the way the world works. People are constantly passing things back and forth. Except that there's like, I feel like if we did this if we saw the world like a cartoon, you'd see areas where there was like color being passed around, and there'd be like black and white and gray areas, because they're just bottlenecking the energy. It's just not moving through. You know what I'm talking about? They're just like, not me, not me. Oh my God. No, 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 no. So it's like, they're just not in service because that ego is just in the way. It's just like a hose. It's like, just let it flow in. Just let it flow in. Let's just move out of the way. Right. What is it? Is it a crime? Like, are we asking you to take money from people? It's like, you're just giving somebody a gift. You're just giving somebody a gift that can actually help them, because it's a lot that it took you to get to this point that you could even make that bracelet, or you could hold that class, or you could take that retreat. You've already gone out there. You've already seen that part of Sedona. You know where to take them. You're going to hold that space. It's just a gift. Just pass it along. Just pass it over. Just pass it over, right? Let the river flow. So yeah, and when you do that, it's really important. I want you to prepare yourself. The first 16 times you explain or you share what you do, it's going to be clunky a little clunky. Like, it'll get better. There'll be room for improvement. Let's say it that way. And the reason why it'll be clunky is because sometimes you won't share the promise of the program or the promise of the offer. You're going to share the process, or you're going to start talking about something and people get a little confused, right? Confused buyers don't buy. So what you're going to do is you're going to prepare for that and be like, that's okay, right? I'm not going to judge other people if they don't get it right away. I'm not going to judge myself either, right? I'm just going to allow myself a process. My friend Kelsey Murphy says when she started, for every 10 no's, she would get a yes. And so she would force herself to write down 10 no's before she would even count one of the yeses. So if she got a yes on number 2, she'd sit there through another 9 no's that day, because she wanted to practice getting the message clearer and clearer and clearer. So one of the things is that the promise has to be clear. What is it? What is it that this thing is really about, right? Is it really peanut butter, or is it like Allison Prince would say, it's like being the coolest mom, because these little snack packs make your kid feel like they're the luckiest kid in the world and it saves you time. So it's really not about the peanuts, right? So you don't need to talk about the peanuts. Okay.
So the second point Cathy's already been alluding to, and that's the fact that it's really important we sell people what they want. And most of the time it's very natural. So just like the woman that Cathy was coaching, who was talking about her bracelets, right? And all of the different features and how the essential oil works, we get overly caught up in our process. And a big part of that is natural, because we're passionate about the way we move people and the way what goes into our art and our craft and our coaching, or whatever it happens to be. It's very near and dear to us, right? And so it seems like the most obvious thing to go to start talking about. But when we really want to serve and support, it's through helping people get that transformation. And the process, it's not the outcome, right? And people, they just don't really care about the process. And it sounds funny because we're so passionate about the way we do things, because it's part of what makes what we do different than everyone else out there doing the same thing. But time and time again, you have to help people feel seen and understood. And that means knowing how they're seeing their problem, how they're thinking about what they want. You get on an airplane to go to Fiji, you're buying Fiji, you're buying those beautiful beaches and the tropical drinks and the trade winds and the warmth of the sunshine. You're buying Fiji. You are not all going, oh my gosh, tell me more. Oh, it's a Boeing, it's not an Airbus. And what engines does it have? Like, it doesn't even factor in, right? It's the destination, but you can't get to Fiji, right? Unless you go on a mode of transportation, but we sell the destination, right? It's the same thing, for example, with moms, right? Moms don't want to really learn how to meditate. Like, you might be passionate about meditation because it transformed your life as a mom, and so now you're inspiring other moms to do it, but they don't want meditation. What they want is to feel like that mom who's like calm and got it together, maybe doesn't yell at her kids so much because she's so like wound up and frazzled. That's what she wants. She wants to feel like a better mom. She actually doesn't want to meditate. The meditation's what's going to get her there. That's your process. but sell her what she wants. And then when you're working with her or you're delivering your product, that's when they get what you know they need in order to get to that transformation.
You know, it reminds me of like Volvo, right? When I was a kid, we had a Volvo, and then my first car was a 1987 Volvo, which was like, you know, passed down and passed down and passed down. Um, but I remember watching those commercials as a kid, and what were they selling? You know, were they selling cars? What were they selling? Safety.
Mhm.
Safety. Like, that's really brilliant marketing, right? This was at a time in the early 80s when we first got seatbelts. Remember that? My kids are like, Daddy said there was a time you guys didn't have seatbelts. I'm like, that's true, because it wasn't safe, right? So people started to make cars safer, and Volvo was like, oh, we're just going to own that. And the truth is, like, if you study it and you look at Mercedes-Benz, or you look at, you know, what are other nice cars in that class? The point is they're all safe. They're all safe. If you look at the crash test ratings and all of that stuff, but everybody, if you ask them, what's the safest car? A Volvo, or Mercedes, a BMW, a Jaguar, you know, Lexus, they're going to say a Volvo. Well, there's really there's nothing to substantiate those facts. You know what I'm saying? It's just as safe. Let's put it this way. It's just as safe. Okay. But they decided to take their commercials, and instead of showing a car with classical music coming around the side of a mountain, they showed crash tests. They showed like safety. They talked to parents and they were like, your children are in that car. There is only one choice. And you're just like, you know? So it's like you buy the freaking car. And that's how it goes. And so the conversation is not about cars. The conversation is, can I just ask you a question? How important is safety for you? And there's going to be a time where the customer's like, look, dude, I'm 28 years old. I'm a guy. I don't have kids. It's not my priority. This isn't your car, right? You lost the sale. You lost the sale. But if you're talking to a woman, she's got a newborn baby, and you say, let me just ask you a question. How important is safety for your family? And she says, it's everything. You don't have a conversation anymore. It's done. That's the car. Now it's just about figuring out which one it is and whether she's going to finance it or lease it, right? Because that's it. And, you know, when you were talking about airplanes and stuff like that, airlines, I was thinking about how much so many of the airlines just missed it, right? But then along came Richard Branson with Virgin, and it was like a party in the sky. It was like purple lighting. It was like people were like, oh, I only fly Virgin. I only fly Virgin. I only fly, you know, and then he decided to get out of the airline business, but everyone wanted to fly Virgin. And then the next best thing was JetBlue. And then JetBlue was super smart because they were like, that's working. Let's make it a party, right? So then it was like, it's like all about those little details of the experience. And so they charge more, and the experience is different. It's not the same, and people will pay for it. It's kind of like, now it's like you either flew JetBlue or you don't really care. It's all the same. It's just utility. You just get there, and it's so dumb, right? It's that kind of feeling. So what is that about? What is that about? That's the conversation. Are you really selling? What are you actually selling? I want you to put it in the chat. What are you actually selling? Because you know what your product is, or what you're working towards your product being, or your service, or your class, or whatever it is. So what is it really, do you think? Bravery, joy, clarity, connection, nostalgia, community. You get it. Yeah, you get it. Courage, creativity, confidence. Yeah. Transformation, purpose. Great. So that's the conversation, right? Like, how powerful do you feel in your life? How peaceful do you feel? What do you do lately to feel peaceful? What gives you relief? Where do you find relief? Do you feel like there's anything you need relief from? Where do you find an outlet for your creativity? How important is creativity to you as a value? Where does that show up in your life? How much healing is some, you know, how much is healing something that you would love to bring more of into your day to day? What, you know, this is the conversation. This is the conversation. And now you have two human beings who start to talk about this, which is really at the core. These are the values. This is the mission. This is the mantra. When Candace Nelson was selling her cupcakes, it was like, well, what kind of person are you wanting to be? What kind of events are you wanting to throw? How do you want your people to leave feeling coming to your party? And then she's like, oh, well, this is going to work for you because this is an original. This is not, you don't get this at the grocery store, right? So they're going to feel that there's something that's really special and unique and that you took the time, and that little extra detail, it starts to have a ripple effect. And then people feel that maybe there's something sophisticated and unique and different about them because they're at this party, right? And now it's not just a cupcake. There's a conversation happening around this cupcake, right? And there's a reason why it's $3 and not 75 cents. And now there's also having to do with like, what do you really want to put in your body? Do you want to put all the GMO stuff? Because then 75 cents is overpriced, right? Because you're killing yourself. Or you can have fresh ingredients, fresh baked, fresh batched, and the buttercream is real and it's not made of processed chemicals. It's like, oh, I want that. Great. I know where you can pick it up, right? That's what it's about. And that becomes really fun because now you're really talking about what it really is. And it's always that, right? It's always that. This t-shirt is a Sundry t-shirt. You know that brand? It says, I want it all. I mean, this is probably an $85 t-shirt. It is super soft, but I like the brand. And I like it says, I want it all. I just like it. I like the story. And this is a Spiritual Gangster hoodie, and it's probably $200. And I like that it says Spiritual Gangster, and I like the whole story behind it, and I like how it makes me feel and what it reminds me of. So it's worth it to me. It's a totally different experience than putting on a t-shirt from some random place that, you know, it's just a t-shirt. It's like, I want something to add to my day. Is this making sense, you guys? Are you starting to connect the dots? Okay, so you're going to sell them what they want and give them what they need. Okay.
Okay, so there's just some room here for you guys to reflect on that and noticing too, like how what you talk about with your process is different from that offer promise we're talking about, right? What you're really actually selling them, what they really actually want. So you can kind of play with that a bit and sort of see both of those angles.
Look at this water. It says overachieving H2O, right? Overachieving H2O. I mean, do you know that this is the most expensive of the waters? And we did the test where you can like do the zero stick. I don't know, you can see like all the pH balance and all that stuff. I think it is the best one, but at the same time, you could buy a filter that would cost you a lot less, and you know, you wouldn't have to recycle as many bottles. And the filter just didn't do as good of a job on the branding, right? Like it hasn't caught on in the same way as like the difference in the smart water. And then they hire Jennifer Aniston to do the thing, and overachieving H2O. It's all psychology. That's what it is. You know, you think to yourself when you go to, you're like, well, who am I? It's like, well, I'm this. You know, the story I tell myself is I buy myself a $4 bottle of water. That's the person I am. Like, okay. You know what I mean? It's like, it does taste good, but this is what we need to start to get. Now let's talk about anticipating their objections, because this is so good. When you guys start to get this, you're just going to fly through. You're going to be like, oh, Cathy and Colleen just make problems disappear. There are no problems. So go ahead, Colleen.
Yeah. So you guys, hesitations, they're normal. Anytime we're making a decision about investing in something, and it can be something as simple as buying a painting. Do I really need this painting? It could be something about like, oh, I don't know about hiring this weight loss coach. Is it going to work for me? Is this going to, you know, all of the story and the narrative that starts to play in people's heads as they think about making that purchasing choice. So we want you to be aware that that process is normal. And that process is going to happen for the vast majority of people who come through your world and through your doors. And it's not something to be afraid of. It's okay. Once you have an awareness of it and you learn to anticipate it and even expect that it comes up, it starts to not feel so scary. So, biggest objections, things always pretty much come down to time and money. Those are the main biggies that people default to. So, I don't have enough time. I can't fit this in my schedule. I just know it's just not for me, or it's not the right time right now. There's just so much going on, right? But if you think about it, life is full. And if a space opens up, like it just gets filled in by something else, right? There's never a better time than there is right now to do something about whatever shift or change it is that you're wanting to make. So that's a big one. Or the other big one is the I can't afford it. I don't have the money for this. I can't justify spending this amount of money on this thing. So we want you to know, if you hear anything along these lines, or any kind of quotes excuse that people come up with about why they're not so sure, it doesn't mean you walk away from that conversation. Okay. I think a lot of the time we feel like if someone's like, yeah, I don't know if you can afford it, you're like, awesome, okay, great, have a good day. And like, you're just like out of there, right? Because sometimes we'll feel like, isn't it super pushy if I don't just bail? And I would say, no, you have an obligation to hold space with that person to let them work through their process. And it's not about being attached to whether that person buys or doesn't buy in the end, but you're just holding space for them to move through that. And either they say yes or they say no. And it actually doesn't really matter what it is, but just that you're allowing room for that to be part of their journey, part of their decision-making journey.
Yeah. So if
Yeah.
somebody says they can't afford it, right, which comes up a lot, I think one of the questions for you to think about for yourself is, at this point in the conversation, when you've offered this, that means you know a little bit about them. There's some connection going on, even if they've just been in your audience liking or commenting. Like at a certain point, there's a buildup. Can they afford to not do it? Legitimately ask yourself, can they afford it? Can they just afford to not do it? Like I think about a friend of mine recently who was going to take an apartment. She had lost her job during COVID, but she moved and she needed to get a place. And so she was going to like get the cheapest apartment possible for her and her kid. And it was near the train tracks. I actually went and saw it. And she was like, what do you think? And I said, I don't know. It feels really like unsafe and I don't love it for you. And she's like, yeah, but I can save money. I can't afford a nicer place. And so I went with her. This is before I left LA, and we looked around and things are expensive. And we found a place that was really, really nice. That was actually like a townhouse, and it was a jump. And I said to her, can you really afford to not get the nicer place? Like, can you really honestly afford to do that? And she's like, no, you don't understand. I don't have the extra money. I said, I know, but honestly, like for your sake, for your kid's sake, like for everything that's going, can you afford it? And she's like, I'm not sure I get what you mean. And I said, well, I think this will force you to do a whole bunch of things. You're going to find that extra $650 a month. You're going to make it happen. And you're going to show up differently. And you're going to feel differently not living right near the train tracks. And all the things. It gives me goosebumps. And so she actually got the more expensive place. And what do you think happened? What happened? Out of nowhere, she put herself out there in a way she was not going to put herself out there. She goes, I can't believe I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to get this job. I remember her calling me saying, no, she said they're not going to be able to pay it to me. Oh my God. I asked for more money. I said I could consult. I said I could do extra. I even said I could stay late and do 3 extra things for them. And I don't know what's going to happen now. Oh my God. She said she's going to have to get back to me. and she lived with it the whole weekend. What happens Monday? I said, if it's not this, there'll be someone else like that. And sure enough, the woman comes back and she gave her 2.5 times. She'd asked for $13,000 for this gig that was going to be like a few months. She came and she said she needed more. No, the woman said 13. She said she needed more. She asked for 18. The woman came back on Monday and said, we love you. We don't want you going anywhere else. They gave her $26,000. And I said, you just broke through. What do you think's happened since then? She has a totally different life. She got that practice, just stepping in. She's made so much more money since then. Do they still live in that townhouse? They do. Are they going to be able to move out of there? Yeah, they are. Oh, yeah, they are. And she's like, thank God. She's like, thank God I didn't move there. Like, what message would I have been sending to myself and my child? Like, walking in there every night, feeling scared, locking the doors, bolting the doors. Like, can you afford to do that? I said to her, can you actually afford this? You can't afford this. This is what you can't afford. You can't afford one day of that. You can't afford that. Do you know how many of my friends, my grandparents, how many people came to this country? 0 immigrants with nothing. What does it do? Forces you. Donut King. I keep talking about this movie. He opened a donut store. He's a Cambodian refugee. Then he opened 4,000 donut shops so that other people, other Cambodian refugees could get out of the refugee camp and start their own donut shop. I mean, it's about mindset, right? It's about what are you continuing to sign up for? So what you're not changing, you just chose it again. You just chose it again. So when people walk up to the Laura Mercier counter and this little dumb, what is it like? Not even an ounce. It's 1 ounce. This is 1 ounce, right? I bought like a trio of 3 of these for like $65, right? What does it cost me to buy this from Rite Aid? What is it actually costing me? A ton. Do you know how I feel every time I'm sitting here? I'm at this Zoom all day, you guys. You should see how many hours I'm on Zoom. And I go like this about 6 times a day. And every time I do this and I smell this lotion and feel this lotion, I'm reminded of the story I tell myself about life and how good it can be and how nice it can smell and how awesome it is. I can't afford to not buy it. I'm sorry. I can't afford it. Can't afford it. I cannot. I can't. My husband's like, why don't you just go to Old Navy? I sent you the thing. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with Old Navy. I can't do it. You don't seem to get how it works. You don't get it. He's like, I can't even, don't even tell me. We go to hotels. He says, don't tell me what it costs. Don't tell me. I'm like, oh my God, you're going to stay with that? That's the story you're going to do? You're going to do that? It's like, you're never going to change it. You're just never going to change it. So you can't afford whatever it is. Let's say it's something that could be for her. It's a membership. It's a product. She can't afford it. Oh, so the story you're telling yourself is you can't afford to do something for yourself. Can you afford that story? Ugh. Now, when you know that, it's going to be clear. It's going to come through. Somehow that will be, it's just, there's no secrets in energy. It gets revealed. So you stand for that. Can your customer afford to not do it? Let's say their house is a mess. Nothing is organized. So everything is inefficient. Colleen knows that. God, does Colleen know that? She came into my business and I used to have 11 people, right? And we were just like, oh my God, there was just so many things. We were all spinning our wheels, right? Spinning our wheels. It's like, can I afford to keep being inefficient? No can do. No can do. Sorry. Can somebody afford to just keep putting off, whatever the thing is? No, you can't afford it. How is it affecting your life? Walking past that junk drawer, walking past that closet, walking past that pile that just sits there in your desk. What does it do to you? How does it free you up? It's not good. It's not good. So they can't afford to not. That's how you need to get it. They cannot afford to not do this yoga class. They cannot afford to not do this. They just can't. They just can't. That's number one. And then about the time, well, you know the truth. We've talked about the truth. How much time do they actually have? How much time are they on social media? Do you know the truth? You actually know. So really, what's that about? Well, they don't want to show up right? Or put themselves as a priority with their time, right? Or there's something triggering about making the time, finding the time. So what's that conversation about? And I go for the jugular. Like, I feel what Daniel Pink said to be true. I take it as a gospel. It's a moral obligation. So when people are in my 5-day challenge, I say all of this. And I say it because I mean it. And I don't stop saying it because I'm not going down without a fight. Like, if someone wants to drown, I'm not letting them. So I'll do everything I can, right? This starfish isn't going in. This starfish isn't going in. Not today, not this time. So when you have something and you know that it's going to change the way this person feels and this person lives, it's a ripple effect. Watch what happens. Watch what happens, because this person decides to make the time for a class on creativity, how it changes their whole life. Watch what happens because they make the time to do a little yoga. Watch what happens because they actually start a food program and they stick to it. Watch how it changes their sex life. Watch how it changes their friendships. Watch how it changes how much money they make. Just watch. They cannot afford to not make the time. And guess what? Nobody has the time. You have to make the time, right? And it comes down to what's important. And so these are just really good conversations to have. And so what my team knows is that when we're in a made to do this launch and we have our mentors, first of all, our mentors, like the people who are in this program, Kimberly and Sonnet, everyone's worked with me for years. And so everybody gets it. And so when we're holding space for someone and they're like, I don't know, I can't afford it, I'm not sure I don't have the time, we're like, it's like a dream doula. We're like birthing them. They're hoping that we will help walk them across that threshold. And so we're going to dance with their resistance, and we're going to get in there, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to talk about it just like this. And then we're going to help them say yes to themselves, basically. And there is a time where you can feel this person is just not available. And you can tell. They didn't raise their hand. Usually when people are talking to you and telling you all the reasons why they can't do this, but they really wish they could, but they can't. They definitely can't. And they're really asking for a little bit of help with that. They're asking for someone to give them the permission to take themselves, say yes, go to Paris, buy the trip. That's what they're asking for, someone to be like, just tell me yes. Tell me just to go to Paris, because it will change the rest of my life. And it will. I went away for a week to this place in Nashville, my 40th year when I turned 40. And it was like $7,000 for a few days. And it's like this intensive healing thing. I'm like, I can't leave the kids. I can't leave the kids. I can't leave the kids. And a friend said to me, she's like, when was the last time, let's just take this decade, because you just turned 40. In the last decade, when did you take a week for yourself? I go, oh, I didn't do that. And she goes, okay, can you afford it? Can your kids afford for you not to have a week to catch up, to look back, to reflect, to look forward, to dig in? I was like, oh my God. And then I got there, I was ready to stay for like 6 more months. I was like, I needed this so badly. I cried when I left. I was like, I am in pieces. I've just been go, 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 go. Go, 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 and I needed my friend to help me say yes to that. It really wasn't about the money. It was the time away, so I'm so glad that people have kicked me in the ass when I need it. I have so many friends. Friends of mine have gone on trips. I'm like, no, I'm not going. My friend's like, you're coming to Ojai, so we're going to come and get you because you're coming. I'm like, no, I don't want to come. I can't come. Oh no, you need to come. So this is important. Are you guys getting this? Are you starting to feel this and get this? Okay, so stand in that energy. Don't stand for their lower self. Stand for who they really are. Okay, what's next, Colleen?
All right. So we want you to basically get systematic about how often you're doing reaching out. It's kind of the thing. If it's not on the calendar, guess what? It often doesn't happen. If it's on the calendar, it happens. So we want you to make a commitment. Okay, how many days am I going to make a post or go live on social media in a week, for example? Maybe you even start with 2, whatever. Okay, commit to it. That's the key piece. And then decide, based on that post, based on that live, how many outreaches are you going to do for the reactions with people engaging? Okay, and then write that down. So maybe you're like, I'm going to do 3. For every post that comes up and people will like or comment, I'm going to pick 3 people and reach out and DM them and make that connection and make them feel seen and talk to them about their world and their life and how I can help them with the generous things that I have to offer. Okay. Add it to your calendar. Okay? We want it to become a habit. And at first, it's not a habit because it's something new that you're not in the habit of actually doing. So it's easier to have it become second nature by putting it on your calendar at first.
Yeah, I want you guys to do this like you're seeing now, be consistent. I want you to just get in the habit of being like, this is what it takes, right? This is what it takes. If you're going to have a business, and no joke, right? Let's say, how good would it feel to make $500,000? Be awesome. That'd be great. That'd be really great. That could fully change a lot of people's lives, right? Okay. So that requires you making this investment, tolerating being uncomfortable, showing up every day, talking to 3 people. And you're going to see that we think it's like the 10,000 hour rule. It's like you put in those 10,000 hours and boom, you know, when preparation meets opportunity, it's like boom, right? That's true. But what I have found in my life, whether I was songwriting, starting my first online course, podcasting, no, it doesn't take that many hours. It just doesn't. It's like, if let's say it's like 10,000 hours, right? By the time you get to like, I don't know, 40 hours, it's like a rain dance. It's like, it's amazing. It's like, it is here. It is here. Because what happens is every time you do it, every time you DM, every time you go and do this thing, you're not starting from zero. You've got more confidence. You've got more of an ability to say what you need to say. You know how to say it better. Your product has now improved. Your service has now improved. Now you've made a collaboration with this person. You're feeling more gangbusters. It's this needs to happen every single day. You need to be doing this every single day. And then you really will see the results. It's like your friend who told you she was going to start working out and you're like, I'll get to it. And 90 days later, you're like, damn, she looks good. And you're like, it took 90 days. Like you had the same 90 days. You just didn't show up. Show up, right? Show up. So let's go through this. You're going to stay consistent. The results won't likely be instant, but that's where most people give up. Okay. So you're going to start working out. Your body doesn't change the first few visits, but then massive, tiny actions after the snowball that turned 90 days. Now you're in a totally different place and you are. Stay focused on showing up from a space of generosity, sharing your passion and finding 20 seconds of courage to keep reaching out. It's really, I love this. I don't want you to be different overnight. I don't want you to try to change, 140 degrees. How about 20 seconds of every day you commit to be brave? You don't have 20 seconds? Yes, you do. Right? You've got 20 seconds. Not every person's going to respond. So you're going to prepare your ego for that. You're going to say to your ego, hey, yeah, people are going to reject you. People are going to ignore you. You'll be okay, right? Doesn't affect you at your core, who you really are. You're fine. Not every person will continue engaging. That's also okay. Don't make a whole story around it, right? Don't make everybody, you're not that important that you're the reason why everybody is doing everything they're doing. People have agency in this world. And not everyone's going to buy from you. That's also great. That's good news. If everyone was buying from you, I would tell you that your product is not going to last, not sustainable. You can't have something that everybody wants. You have to have something that there's a group that, there's only one place you can go where there's something that everybody wants. It's Walmart, right? That's okay, right? What do they say? Roll back the prices. Whatever that is. That's not a place that people go, oh my God, we have to go. We have to go now. I'm obsessed. Like that can happen in a couple moments, right? Where there's a place like you just need to get it all. It's not what we're all aspiring to be, right? It's not what people are being obsessed with. The important thing is keep showing up and embracing this discomfort. And, I heard Glennon Doyle say, like, who would you be if instead of avoiding discomfort, you just went straight for it? You're just like, where's that discomfort? I'm on it. let's go. Let's go get it. Let's go get it. I just took this workshop yesterday and the psychologist was saying, it's really cool. This is a simple trick. I've never done it yet, but maybe some of you do it all the time. So I'm going to feel silly. When you're done with your shower every day, put it on freezing cold for 30 seconds to show yourself that you can tolerate discomfort. Does any type of one, if you've ever done that? I mentioned it to my husband. He goes, I do that every day. I'm like, oh my God, you do? Like, okay. All of you do it. Okay. Well, I loved it because I was like, that makes sense. You like physically learn how to tolerate being uncomfortable. And then the other thing he said is that yoga has been proven, right? To help you rewire your reactivity. It makes sense because you put yourself intentionally into intense, uncomfortable positions and then you come out of it. And I'm just like, that makes so much sense, So I think if we just said, that's good for me, like I'm going to do stuff like that. I'm going to be uncomfortable and hold it. I want to tell you one more thing. So when I was at UCLA, I studied there for a few years at their Mindful Awareness Center. It's really cool. They have like all these classes you can take and you don't even have to be a student. You can just take classes. In any case, so there was one class and the teacher said that they used to do this maybe with Lamaze classes. I don't know. I didn't have a Lamaze class, but she gave us all an ice cube and then she gave us a bowl. So we all had these plastic bowls and ice cube. Okay. So we pick up the ice cube and we're all sitting in a circle and she's like, okay, when it gets uncomfortable, just put it down. So within like 7 seconds, everyone just puts it down because it's not fun to hold ice. And then she says, pick it up again. And this time just lean in, like move toward this discomfort and see if you can be with it and tolerate it and just like make room for how uncomfortable it is. And we're like, okay, and we're holding it. And then she's like, is anyone noticing that it's now like 40 seconds? And like everyone was still holding it, and it's the same ice. And then she says, okay, so just be with it, just be with it. And after a while we were all like, oh my God, I hope I don't like not even notice. Like I need to put it down at some point. It's bad for you to hold ice cubes. But you get to a point where you're just like, it's actually okay. Like it's just called discomfort. Like I can be with being uncomfortable. I know how to tolerate being uncomfortable. And actually then I get really, it's kind of satisfying. You're like, ooh, I could tolerate that. Okay. And then we all put it down. And I never forgot that. And that is how it is, in labor. It's like, I just remember being like, okay, this is really uncomfortable, but there's nothing to do, like you got to go toward it, you got to be with it. At this point, there it is. So I think that we can get a lot out of this. I think that we all need this. So run your shower super cold and do some yoga and keep showing up for the things that are uncomfortable because there is such a reward on the other side.